Excited for this.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, we have people joining us on Zoom today and also on LinkedIn. So I'll just go through some quick intros and give as much time as possible for some questions because we did get a lot that came in. So I'm Jessica King. I am the pipeline manager here at Techstars, and my role is to help our accelerator programs find the best startups from all over the world through many events that we host throughout the year. So if you've joined one before, thank you so much for attending, and also welcome today if you haven't and this is your first time. If you are on Zoom with us, can you please use the Q&A button that's located at the bottom of your screen? That will help us track your questions throughout today's event. And then if you're joining on LinkedIn, feel free to post your questions in the chat there and they will get relayed over to our team. But we did have a lot of questions that came in through the registration form. So we will be kicking off with those questions for today. But before that, let's go through some introductions. And Elliott, do you mind kicking us off?
Sure, happy to. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Excited for this session. Hopefully it'll be helpful to all of you in wherever you are in your founder journeys. I'm Elliott Mack. I'm on the investment team here at Techstars. I joined Techstars back in 2022, and I've worked across our Techstars New York City sports tech, as well as our Techstars Anywhere program. So excited to be here. I'm based in New York City, and yeah, I will flip it over to Sylvia.
Hey guys, I'm Sylvia. I'm on the investment team for Techstars San Francisco. So we run a hybrid program out here in the Bay Area. We focus a little bit more on AI tools, ML, deep tech, kind of frontier tech. But at the end of the day, we're pretty, sector agnostic. And been at Techstars a couple of years now and have more experience like on traditional venture side, in addition to actual founding experience. So I have a lot of empathy for how hard it is, but hopefully we can, answer a lot of your questions here and get you excited about the work we're doing at Techstars.
Awesome. And I am Misti Cain. It's so great to see all y'all. Go ahead and drop in that chat where you're from. I'm calling in from San Diego, California. We have amazing weather here, so apologies to those of you who may not have amazing weather wherever you are. I've been in the Techstars ecosystem since about 2018. It's actually a really fun story how I got introduced to the Techstars ecosystem. It involves a plane ride and a serendipitous introduction with a managing director. Feel free to ask me about it sometime. But I've been a founder, a mentor, a lead mentor, an entrepreneur in residence, an investor, and now I am the venture partner leading the Techstars Anywhere team, along with my amazing colleagues, Curdy Levy and Carly Murphy-Furcade. So I have the pleasure of going out, helping to find startups who are building the future, and then offering them investment and supporting them through our 13-week Accelerator program and beyond. So it's great to meet y'all today, and I'm happy to get into some of these questions. Also love seeing where you guys are from. So thanks for dropping. Oh, Korea. Wow. Come a long ways.
Amazing. Thanks for the intros. So as you can see, we have a good group with us. Everyone here is part of a program, which is really great access for all of you that are interested in applying. So we'll kick it off with some program questions that we've received. So what is the time commitment for a founder that's looking to apply and participate in the program? Like, let's say they are fully employed at this time and they're thinking about transitioning to exit out of that to work on their startup full time. Have you seen that happen in program, and what are the expectations?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'll go ahead and start, and then would love to hear from some of my colleagues on their replies as well. But what we say about Techstars is once you take venture capital, once you say to someone, hey, give me your money, we want you to be as committed as possible. The expectation that at the very least, the CEO is committed and working on this full time. We also look at it in terms of time resources. If you are a solo founder, you have 24 hours in a day. You have to split that time up doing a number of things. If you have 2 people on your team, essentially you have 48 hours in a day. Go ahead, do the math, extrapolate that out. The more people you have on your team, the more time that you have to get things done. Add in a 13-week accelerator program where we are having you do more than you thought possible. And if you are also working a full-time job, you are cutting down on the ability and the time frame to be able to get those things done. So we do ask for that dedication from the CEO. Also, we want to see demonstrable progress. week over week. If your CTO is off doing something else, it's going to be really hard to get those fast sprints in and turn things around and test them. So that commitment to an accelerator is really, really appreciated, as well as the fact that you only have so much time in a day that you can get those items done. So we want to make sure that you are dedicated to building what it is that you applied to build.
Yeah, just to add to that, it's exactly what I was going to say. Honestly, like we get a lot of founders who apply and they have a full-time job somewhere else. And, I'm saying, okay, like, are you full-time on the startup? They say, yes. I said, but you have a full-time job somewhere else. But they say, oh, I work 40 hours a week anyway on my startup. But the reality is, like, being a founder is not 40 hours a week. It is so much more than that. So, just, balancing all of that. And then when it comes to really fundraising, and then afterwards, like navigating customer relationships, navigating product, navigating engineering. I mean, it's very difficult, to have a full-time job and do that too, not only for Techstars, but just in general. Like if you want to start a company, it's incredibly challenging to balance both. So, at least for our team, we really recommend that you are like 100% full-time, working on your company for Techstars, but mainly for you, just because we think that's like the healthiest way for you to kind of go about and build a company.
Yeah, I'll just quickly put a pin on that one. I totally agree with Misti and Sylvia's thoughts. I think, and Misti touched on this, but in a word, it's commitment, right? You're showing your investors, whether that's an accelerator like Techstars, or if you're raising that subsequent Series A, Series B, your more institutional, later stage VCs, that you are committed to building this company, hiring for this company, fundraising for this company, that you're going to be all in. So it's a good signal, even earlier in your journeys of fundraising and building the company, but and even for folks that you're looking to hire, right? It's one thing to say, hey, my eyes are on you, Corey Cooper. If you're not part-time, if you're looking to bring on a CTO or head of sales, it's like, hey, person, if you're looking to join this company, I want you to be full-time, but I'm also not full-time, right? So you want to make sure that everyone's aligned, has the same vision, walking and working in the right direction, same direction. But a full-time commitment is certainly that my team and I look for, and we look for across the Techstars ecosystem. One caveat to that, we have, performed diligence on a few companies where either the co-founder or the founder isn't quite full-time on the business. He or she is working at another company that's out there, but they do have a plan to end work at their current employer within the next week or 2 weeks or a month. So if you're not fully full-time yet on your startup, we are looking to see, like, what is your plan to become full-time? So a little tidbit there, it's just a tip or trick, if you will, to keep that in mind.
That's a great reminder. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So when it comes to the program itself, is it essential that you participate in person, or are there any opportunities to participate remotely or in a hybrid option?
Yeah, really, totally. Yeah, Misti, take it away, because I know you'll have a great answer for this.
Well, mine will be a little bit different, and then there's another perspective that y'all offer too. I run the Techstars Anywhere, which is our mostly virtual program. So there are opportunities to participate virtually, but our founders are typically from North America simply because of the time frame. So we look at the Pacific time zone, which is where I am, all the way to the East Coast time zone, which is where my colleagues are. And if you are within 4 hours of the Pacific Coast time zone, it's really helpful so that you can be there for the workshops, participate in our objectives and key results meetings, things like that. We do get together 3 times throughout the year in various locations. For example, this particular cohort, we went to San Diego, where I am. We were in New York, and then we are also going to be in San Francisco in a couple of weeks. However, for the most part, that program is virtual, but there are also different other structures. And so I'll let Sylvia and Elliott speak to those.
Yeah, awesome. So for the San Francisco program in particular, we do run kind of more of that hybrid structure. So what that means is that you have to be in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, for the first week of program, which is kind of like our orientation week, and the last week of program, which is demo day. And other than that, we're pretty flexible. We do find that a lot of people do want to be out in the Bay Area for several more weeks in program, if not like, a big chunk of it, just because running an AI program, we have such a great like AI community out here in the Bay. So it's, always really helpful to tap into that for founders. But at the same time, like, we recognize that people have a lot of other responsibilities, and, it's really difficult to kind of just pick up your life and move. So, that's definitely something that we can be really flexible around.
Yeah. And then for the New York City program, that's a mostly in-person program, right? So again, the answer to this question, it depends on which program works best for you as a founder and your co-founding team, whether it's, the Anywhere program, like Misti mentioned, That's mainly remote, or a hybrid program or an in-person program. New York City is mainly in-person. And again, we know that all of us, we have lives and responsibilities, sometimes families and other things going on. So it's one of those things where you kind of get out as much as you put in. So whether it's being in person, that creates an opportunity to meet with not just your program team on a day-to-day basis, but other investors and mentors and other folks in the ecosystem that we bring in to add as a resource to you as you build your company. That FaceTime certainly helps, but at the same time, we understand that founders sometimes have to fly back home, wherever home may be, for a multitude of reasons. So in a word, like, that is okay if that's what you're thinking. You don't have to be there every day, Monday through Friday. We're certainly not taking attendance by any means, but we want to be there to be as supportive as we can to you as the founders. We know this is your company. We're going to be supportive and help you accelerate that. But if you need to take 2 or 3 days at home, and maybe you're in San Diego with Misti, but our program's in New York, if you need to be in San Diego for 3 days, that's totally fine. Hopefully you can bring back some warm weather for us as well. So it really depends on which program you're a part of.
Yeah, and I think that really highlights that every program is structured a little differently. So if you have some questions about what that looks like when you're in your interviews, this is a great time to ask the teams, right? What are the expectations of my attendance, and what is that in person versus virtually? I will say that a majority of our programs are in person or have some in-person expectations. So if you are looking for like one that's more virtual, that option would be the Techstars Anywhere program. All right. So who can apply to our programs? Is it open globally? Because I have some founders that specifically asked from India and from Africa as well. So are they encouraged to apply to programs that are located all over the world, or do you have any recommendations for that?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we do applications from all over the world.
Yeah.
We definitely have accelerated programs all over the world as well, which is extremely helpful. And similar to how we were talking about do we have to be in person? Where would your startup most benefit from being? Can you make a commitment to be in that location? And does that help to bring value to whatever it is that you're building? So because we have global programs, there's an opportunity for anyone and everyone to apply and then figure out. I know there are some questions about which program is the best fit, so I'll let some of my colleagues talk to that as well. But we do accept those applications specifically for, let's say, an anywhere or a hybrid program. We do look at, can you participate during the hours and also during the activities that program offers. So for anywhere, we travel 3 times throughout the year, typically in the United States. Would you be able to join and participate in that? Are you able to participate in the workshops that we have during the day? So we look at those kinds of things as well, but we do look at applications from all over the world.
Another part of that too, if you can answer this, because I think it relates, which is, do we provide any visa support for founders that do need to travel into the US?
Such a great question. We do provide letters of referral. So we can provide a letter that states if you are offered a spot within the Techstars program, we can write a letter. All of the legal aspects of getting the visa is something that you would take care of on your own. So having a great lawyer, as one of our MDs, Ryan Cooter, likes to say, a lawyer is very expensive. A bad lawyer is really, really expensive. So making sure that you have someone that can help with that regard. And then our due diligence and legal team can give pointers in terms of how to finesse getting the visa application process completed, but it's not something that we take care of on our end here at Techstars.
Okay, great. And how do founders choose the right Techstars program?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's really, similar to kind of what Misti mentioned, right? Like, it has to be the right program for your company. It has to really support your company and what you're building. I mean, there's a couple of different ways, right? Like, we kind of talked about location. So, is that important to you? Is there a Techstars program near you, like in your area, that you have had the opportunity to reach out to that team? You've had the opportunity to get to know the program team, and program team, I mean, kind of like the people in this call, right? And get to know, what other companies have gone through that program. There's also a second way of kind of evaluating, right, around kind of thesis. So some Techstars programs will have a stronger kind of thesis in one area than others. And a lot of this information, again, you can kind of find on the Techstars website within different kind of branches, and also, reach out to kind of the folks who work there. If you have additional questions, but, like I mentioned, like for us, we do a little bit more of that, like AI deep tech, and I know there are programs that focus more on healthcare or fintech, et cetera. So, definitely really kind of worth kind of evaluating and diving a little deeper and doing some homework on, which program would be best for your business, whether that's thesis or location.
Absolutely. And of course, and we touched on this earlier with Jessica, the question she mentioned around, personal preferences, if you will. So definitely research the teams, definitely make sure it makes sense for you from a sector, industry focus, but as well, like think through your personal situations, right? I don't think really need us to tell you this, but maybe you have your hands full with family, other responsibilities, and maybe a hybrid or remote program may work better for you. Maybe not, maybe you prefer to be in person. So it's kind of a combination, kind of a nice recipe, a pot, if you will, of all of those inputs that you do a calculus on it, and you get to the output of maybe I want to be in person in New York, or I want to be in person in San Francisco, or vice versa. So again, we're here to be as supportive as possible to you, but candidly, that decision of which is quote unquote best for you will come down to what you and your co-founder, if you have a co-founder, and what your team thinks.
Yeah, and I hope no one here gets super stuck on this, because this shouldn't be a sticking point for anybody. So really, when it comes to the researching part, what I always recommend, there's a little bit of a cheat, right? Like you can go on the Accelerator page and you can take a look at the teams that are listed, right? Like you'll see Elliott on the New York City page. I would follow him on LinkedIn. They normally post events that they host themselves. So I would try to attend an event like this, whether it's virtual or in person. And that's how you can kind of get to know them a little bit and really start to do some research about their team. But if you're really still struggling with that, you can always email my team at startups@techstars.com. And we can help you narrow down your options, because this really shouldn't be a huge sticking point for you. So just know that we do support you with this if you need the help. All right, so I'm going to shift a little bit more into the team and founder expectations, because we do have a lot of questions about that. So the first question is, does Techstars accept solo founders?
Ooh, we get this one a lot. And the answer to that, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is, I'm going to do a callback to what we mentioned earlier, and that is there are only so many hours in the day. We care less about where you are on your journey building your business, how large your team is, and more about how fast are you getting to those next inflection points. Are you a solo founder who the first time we talk to you has an idea, second time there's an MVP, third time you've got some beta customers using it? Like, what does that look like? Your speed, your ability. I like to call them captains. I once said that at an event, and one of our investors, who I love dearly, I asked, what do you think it means to be a captain? And he says, it means you go down with the ship. I'm like, no, that's very pessimistic. It doesn't mean that. It means that you can ship like it's your full-time job. So if you're a solo founder, can you make the same amount of progress as a team with 2 people, as a team with 3 people? You can also go onto our website. Be resourceful, y'all. On the Techstars website, we have portfolio, and it shows all the different portfolio companies. You can look to see which founders have gone through the program, and then look to see what their team looks like. We just had a solo founder who, a couple of solo founders actually, who graduated from our spring Techstars Anywhere program, and I know several others. So take a look at what it is that they're building, how they built it, follow them, get some insight into what they're building.
Totally. I mean, I agree. Like, I think being a solo founder, it's not going to like disqualify you from getting into Techstars, right? And I think you're going to have to come to us though. Like, you are going to get that question. Just like know that now. You are going to get the question. Like, do you have a co-founder, and are you looking for a co-founder? And that's going to be a discussion. You have to really be prepared as to, why you are a solo founder, and, what steps you are taking to finding a co-founder, the type of co-founder you want, the skills that you think are the most valuable for, your team that would like kind of augment the team, et cetera. So I think it's going to be something that comes up. And I again, like it's something that would only help you, whether you go through Techstars or not. I think it's incredibly helpful to have a co-founder. Fundraising is essentially a full-time job. Building a company, from a development standpoint, is also essentially a full-time job. It's very hard to do both of these alone. So again, we do accept solo founders, and we're open to, and we totally understand, but we do want to know kind of why you are a solo founder and what steps you are taking to kind of grow your team.
Yeah. Another just quick point, kind of a tip or trick, if you will, because obviously this question comes up a lot. Yes, we accept solo founders. Well, a few companies we've worked with in the past, they haven't quite had a full-time co-founder or head of engineering, head of sales yet on their team. Obviously, because you're all probably in the fundraising journey. It's the chicken and the egg problem, right? It's like, well, if I had the capital, I would hire this person to come on as my co-founding, my technical co-founder or head of engineering, et cetera. However, many of you may have someone who's already working in that role. Maybe this person's working nights and weekends in your company, although they may have a full-time job somewhere else. That person is technically on your team, right? You may not list them in your deck as a co-founding member. However, you can present that, you can speak to that when you're on the phone with Sylvia or Misti or myself or some of our other Techstars colleagues where, listen, this person's not full-time yet. However, once, we raise some capital, we get some more funding in, they will join. They've already committed to that. So that can kind of move that hiring team inflection point needle further. Because again, it doesn't have to be so black and white, right? So if you have someone working with you, although they may be full-time elsewhere, that still counts as someone on your team if they are concretely working in your business and helping you code, et cetera. So you can speak to that in a way as well, right? So there's a nuance to some of these answers. So again, it's about doing your research, finding out who you can get in touch with and get in front of and speak to, like where your company is, especially from a team perspective. So that's helped move the needle for many companies, actually.
Great. And when it comes to the team attendance, like who is expected to participate in the Accelerator program once they are accepted?
Great question. Yeah, for the programs, both think about this from what are you trying to get out of Techstars standpoint, as well as what is it that you could have done on your own? And if you could have done it on your own, then you're probably not doing Techstars in the correct way. Techstars is not a boot camp. It is not education. There's tons of YouTube masterclasses, tons of books that you can go out and learn how to start a business. What we want you to utilize Techstars for is to do more faster. And in order to do that, you have to participate. You have to get to know people. You have to get involved in the network. At minimum, the CEO is participating because the leader of the company, the person with the vision, we want them to be a part and ingrained in the Techstars ecosystem. If there are co-founders who are actively working on the business, we want them to be involved as well. The extent to which they're involved, we have like an 80% rule. However, I would caution people from looking at this from a check the box sort of standpoint and if I am going to give up part of my company because there is equity involved that we take, I'm going to receive a little bit of that money and a lot of that love from Techstars. Do I want to immerse myself in this experience? We want people who are hungry and who want to be here versus, well, how much do I have to participate? If that's the question that you're asking, I would love for you to consider, why am I applying to an accelerator in the first place? And what does that mean for my business? So don't necessarily think of it as I've checked the box. I believe Elliott said this before, we're not taking attendance. What we're trying to do is help you to do more than you could on your own. So participate as much as possible.
Okay, and when it comes to the stage of the startup, because I love what you mentioned, Misti, of like really identifying what you need support with and how to grow in that with Techstars. But what do we have a preference for a specific stage? Like, how early can you be? What's the recommendation for that?
Yeah, so one thing that we like to say, and then also if anyone has feedback on this as well, is there is a spectrum of where you are in your startup life cycle from, hey, let's start a business together, to IPO or ringing the bell now, whatever it is that you're doing your exit plan. And we are looking a little bit less on, are you just at idea stage? We have taken people and offered them a spot in the program who just have an idea, Figma prototypes. We have taken people who are at MVP stage, who have a little bit of revenue, who've already raised some money. We are a pre-seed accelerator. So when we get those emails or those DMs on LinkedIn where they're like, I'm raising $10 million, are you interested? That's probably beyond what our accelerator is good for. So we want you to be in the pre-seed stage, but that looks all different types of ways. It's less about where you are and how fast you're getting to that next point. And I can't stress that enough. We talk about, I have some revenue. Is that enough? That depends. Did you get $30,000 all at once and then you've gotten 0 cents? What does your trajectory look like? Is it constantly growing? Are you showing that people want what it is that you're building? Or has it remained relatively flat? Or is it declining? Just having revenue is not necessarily an indication of this is a thriving, growing startup. So what we want you to do is to consider, how fast can I come up with a hypothesis, test that hypothesis, prove that people want this thing that I'm building, and then show the Techstars teams that that is what's happening. So we want to see fast inflection to that next point in your business so that you're hitting regular milestones every single time that we talk to you.
And so since you mentioned a little bit about, I mean, you didn't say the word, but traction, right? So I'm going to shift a little bit more now into what we look for in the actual application itself. And so we'll just kick it off with that, which is how much emphasis is put on traction for early stage startups? And can you actually explain what traction means and give some examples? So does anybody want to take that?
Yeah, I'll start and then pass it on. Traction could be all kinds of things, not just revenue. It could be letters of intent. It could be wait lists. You could also have traction as it pertains to learnings. So we have found that our cost of acquisition has gone down with these particular efforts. The thing that kills startups, and I've challenged so many people to prove me wrong, 2 things kill startups. Number 1, not moving fast enough. Number 2, falling in love with the solution, not the problem. What we want to make sure is that you're not building something that nobody wants. How can you show us that people want this and that desire is consistently growing? If you are struggling, whatever that is, you're struggling to get a wait list. I don't have any money, so I can't build the product. Can you build a landing page and see if people will click the button? Can you talk to people about it and see if they'll sign up? Is anybody asking for this? Will they pay you to start the build? Can you get a design partner? Can you show that people want what it is that you're building? If you have an idea of something and nobody seems interested whatsoever, that is an indication that you may not be hitting on the right problem. So we don't necessarily need to just see revenue. We need to see something that shows people want what it is that you're building. I'll stop there and let other people provide their input too.
Yeah, that's all great. And I agree with Misti there. The traction, I think even to Jessica's question, you kind of chuckled, Jessica, when you said traction. Again, everyone has a different definition of it. Of course, you can look for more of the historical mile markers like revenue or even fundraising, team growth, weekly active users, monthly actives, et cetera. But another way of showing traction is through your customer discovery, right? And again, a lot of you have started your companies because you had an assumption of, this is a problem out there that hopefully millions of people have, and you believe you and your team, if you have a team yet, are the best folks to solve that problem. That's great. So if we're on our first call and then we get to our second call, third call, talk us through how you've tested those assumptions, right? First of all, it's customer discovery, then there's problem discovery, there's the assumption discovery. Walk us through just how you're learning and then what you're taking from those learnings, if and how you're implementing that into the startup, right? Because sometimes you may be very early and you don't have revenue yet, and that's totally fine, right? We take startups, we invest in startups that may have a solo founder. We invest in startups that are pre-revenue. That's okay. But if you're just showing continuous traction or improvement or hitting a few milestones, that really shows us that you're being thoughtful about this grandiose startup idea that you believe is going to change the world one day, right? So before we get to that point where you're changing the world and you're IPOing, this is what my team and I did literally yesterday to help us prove out our idea in our minds. That's going to help us continue to build this solution around that idea today, right? So learning, then implementing those learnings into your business from a discovery standpoint, that's traction as well. Although you may not That may not be a common nomenclature out in the market, that customer discovery attraction. For us, it is.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. And so to continue on with the application itself, because you do have to include those points of traction in the application, what are some other tips that you would recommend to help an application stand out? So that could be any tips on the video when it's like the product video or the team video or anything else that you see some characteristics in there that really make for a compelling application.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the most exciting parts of the application are that team video where you can really kind of show your personality, tell us a little bit more about how you work together, what your story is, what your backgrounds are, what skills each of you do bring to the table. I always find that like a really amazing way to kind of like get to know the team a little bit better versus, just reading about the traction metrics, et cetera. And then the second part of the application I really enjoy is, one of the final questions, right? Like around what's your long-term vision with the company? Because like, I think, we're really trying to invest in unicorns, obviously, and we want to know where you're going to be in 7 to 10 years. We want to know how big you want this company to get. So I always encourage, founders applying to San Francisco to be very kind of, very kind of dreamers when they answer that. I want to know, how this is going to be a massive company and you're going to hire hundreds of people one day and run, this unicorn. So really kind of getting me excited about the future of your company.
We also did an Inside the Techstars Accelerator on October 16th. And there was I believe it's on YouTube. I'll try and get the link over here with the next question. But there's a playlist of all different types of videos and all different types of webinars and sessions that we had at that event. And one of the ones that myself and one of our other MDs did, his name's Trey Bowles, was on the application process itself, where we literally walked through every single field that you could fill out in the application and talked about what is amazing about this particular field. What should you be putting in there from, please don't give us 20-minute team and demo videos. We need 1 to 2 minutes. Don't make them marketing. Really, really make them strong and tell us what it is you're building and why it's amazing. Stay away from embellishments. If thousands of other people could raise their hand and say the same thing, you're not standing out. So right now, I bet if I asked you, well, let's just do a little test. How many of you are hardworking? Most of you are going to raise your hand, right? I'm a hardworking person. But if I said, how many of you have at least $20,000 in revenue and design partners with some of the top major logos in the world, it's going to get more sparse. People are like, I don't have any revenue yet. Oops. Oh, I don't have design partnerships with, some of us did. Go ahead, Mira. Some of you do have those things that you can say. That is a standout. It's something that very few people can say that's unique to you, that gives you an advantage over all the other applicants that we're going to see and all the other applications that we're going to review. Oh, and Jessica already coming through clutch with the link. So there's the Inside a Techstars Accelerator event from October. Such an amazing playlist. Definitely recommend being resourceful, going through those, watching those videos. And then there's one specifically on submitting an application, but others on reviewing pitch decks and fundraising, all kinds of great stuff in there.
Yeah. And just to quickly put a button on that, agree totally with Misti and Sylvia's thoughts. I would say just in a word, it's around clarity, right? Just be very clear around what you're building, why, how you've come to this idea to solve the problem. And that can be through the open-ended responses in your application, as well as Sylvia mentioned, the team video. I know all the teams across the Techstars ecosystem, the program teams, that is, really look at the team videos, yes, to get a sense of your personality, but also just to try to understand in relatively short order what it is you're building and why. So if you can really just oversimplify it, don't necessarily try to be impressive with large words and going on and on. Just be very clear, succinct, what you're building and why you think you and your team are the best folks to solve that problem. That goes a long way.
Can I also add something here too? That's a great point, Elliott. I think also just be really honest throughout the entire application. Do not embellish your revenue. Do not embellish how much funding. Obviously, do not lie about anything, but be really transparent and honest, because I'm reading this and I want to help you, right? We're here to help, and also we need to know kind of where you're starting in order to be able to help you, and really ask relevant questions about your business and be able to understand what challenges you're facing. So if and it's really obvious, I think, from an investment standpoint, if something seems like too good to be true or like kind of very much embellished. So throughout the whole application, it's not about one section, right? Like just be very honest, and it's okay. Like we've accepted companies that have very little traction. We've accepted companies that have more traction. We've accepted companies that have like no funding pre-Techstars. It's okay. It's more just about being really transparent and getting us excited about like, what you want to build and where you want to go with it.
That was a great segue into the comment that I wanted to make, which is that I wish I could give everyone on this call a magic formula. Like, I wish I could say, this is what you need in your traction. This is what you need in your team. This is what we need to see in terms of, this and that, whatever. But there's not. Right? Like all of these tips are meant to be based off of your individual company. And so what we do when you apply and provide that information for us is that we evaluate your entire application. And then that's how we decide whether or not we want to move you forward, right? It's not because you're hitting these very specific parameters that we have, because we don't have that, right? It's so of an evaluation of your full team and your full company. And then we'll have conversations with you in these interviews. And that's where we'll really get to know you and your team more and decide whether or not to move you forward. So it is a very competitive space. And that's why I'm seeing a lot of questions of like, well, if I have this much in revenue, I'm seeing that in the chat right now, right? If I have this much in revenue and this is how big my team is, am I going to get in? If I'm in the specific industry and we're focused on solar, like, am I going to get in? That is something that I can't answer right now because we have to look at your full application, right? We have to look at your full team. We have to look at the traction. And that is what we're really looking at in total. And so some of the questions that I'm seeing too of like, what about my team video and my product video? How many minutes does that have to be? Does this have to be high production? Well, what we're really looking at is like what Sylvia said of helping us understand your team and why you're passionate about this. And it doesn't have to be this high production thing, right? More importantly is if you did it, right? So when it comes to like the next question, which I wanted to ask, which is like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that we see when it comes to the application? It's really that it's leaving out those things that Misti, Elliott, and Sylvia have pointed out for you to include. And it's also not completing all of the questions, right? Like we'll see things where people will link to, for their pitch deck to a link that doesn't work. We'll see people not answer questions. We'll see spelling errors. So it's really just fine tuning that to make sure that your application is complete and ready to go to be reviewed.
The other thing to take into consideration is all the other applicants. I realize it's very difficult. If you can't see it, sometimes you can't be it. I would encourage you to look at companies who have been invited to participate in Techstars. We have it on our portfolio page. You can also find them. A lot of times companies will link their program and the year that they went through Techstars. Get to know them, reach out and say, hey, would you mind sharing your pitch deck? Would you mind sharing your application? Some of them are willing to, some of them may not, and that's totally okay. But get a look at what other people have submitted to Techstars. How many times did you apply? Did you get in? It's not that it's subjective and willy-nilly. It's that we don't know what's going to come through our door. We have someone, little traction, but they're a second-time founder. They've got a really strong network. They've got advisors on their team that have strong subject matter expertise. They have an unfair advantage because they have partnerships lined up, ready to go. They just need XYZ. You have someone else who, first-time founder, never done this before. Their traction is amazing. Or you have someone, the technology is just so new and so interesting that we're like, wow, that is going to change the world. We want to take a bet on this one. There's a company called Pipe Dream that went through Techstars Anywhere, literally thought we were getting punked, thought it was a fake company. They were like, we are going to build these pipes underground where you can just put things in from the store and ship it to people underground. Get there instantly. And we're like, that's not, come on, Pipe Dream, and your name is Pipe Dream. Real company. they're actually doing really well. I would look them up on LinkedIn as well. So there's so many different variables as to what makes a great company. And we look at every single application that chooses our program as a preference. Make sure you choose a program preference, please. A lot of times people think, oh, I won't choose a program preference. And then everybody will look at my application. It's actually the antithesis of that. Choose a program preference. You have an opportunity to choose at least 2 in your initial application. And we look through every single one, and we're comparing that against all of the applicants that we receive. So it's not just, are you great, but how do you stack up to everything that we're seeing as well.
And I want to talk about the application a little bit more in terms of the process too, when it comes to those preferences. So I'm just going to share my screen really quick, so that way people can have a little bit of a guide. So once you go into techstars.com, and you can either hit apply now to start your application, or you can go into accelerators and find an accelerator. This is where you'll see all of our programs that have currently open applications. As you can see, the deadline is approaching soon, which will be November 20th. And then once that's closed, it will be closed. So you won't be able to apply anymore. And when you go through the application itself at apply.techstars.com, you'll fill out the application, and at the end, you'll select 2 programs that you want to apply to. And so just know that you'll be reviewed by those teams, and you'll receive an update usually 6 to 8 weeks after applications close. So after November 20th. So they can either reach out to you for an interview, or they may not select you for the program. So that's a little bit of how to navigate through this process. And then, as mentioned, once you click into the actual accelerator team itself, down below, you can see the team that is listed for that and do some research on them. All right, so when it comes to, once you're done completing your application, what happens next from the teams? Like, what happens in interview 1, interview 2, and screening committee? Can you explain that?
Yeah, we also see questions coming in. Can I update my application? Up until application close, you can update your application. So you can select different program preferences. You can add to, for example, if you've already applied, you can definitely go in and make changes to your application. Once the application's closed, it's November 20th, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. It's very specific. After that, no changes. Once you submit your application, our team starts going again. We review every single application, like go through, take a look at it and evaluate it to see what it is that you've submitted. After applications close, we have between 6 to 8 weeks where we will get back to you. So because we have all these applications to go through, you may not hear back as soon as someone else, which is another reason why we asked for you as you're going through the Techstars process. Maybe just keep that to yourself. You have no idea what other people are going through in this process, what stage they're at, and you don't know where you land in terms of where we've reviewed or where we are at in that review process. First interview, usually just to get to know you. The way that it runs when I interview a company is, I want to understand the basics. Even if you've submitted it in your application, hopefully there's been progress since you submitted your application. Tell me a little bit more about your team. Why are you the best founders for this? Talk to me about the market. I want to understand your deep subject matter expertise. I also want to understand the learnings that Elliott had mentioned earlier. Like, how are you doing customer discovery? Why is this a problem to solve? What is the urgent, pervasive, either desire or issue that you're solving? Why are you different? Who are your competitors? I'm going to pepper you with questions. Usually after that, another person on my team, I want them, if you move on to that second interview process, I have another person on the team interview you so that they can also get to know what it is that you're building. I'm going to ask different questions. We may also ask for you to do something like, hey, can you send us or submit or show us, depending on what your product or service is. Every step of the way, this is not just, are you good enough for Techstars? This is also, is Techstars right for me? We want to tell you where you land in that process, so our team gets back to you fairly quickly. After interview 1, if we're not going to move on to a second interview or beyond, we will let you know as soon as possible. Every single time we go through a process of the review, do we want to interview? We are letting people know in as quick a fashion as possible, but that time frame, overall time frame, after applications close is 6 to 8 weeks to hear back in some way. So that's how we handle it at Techstars Anywhere. and then I'll open it up to others to talk about their process.
Yeah, so for Techstars San Francisco, anyone who's interested in the San Francisco program, being out in the Bay, we have a little different process. We also evaluate every single application. So I will be reading every application. If you apply, I'll read it. Don't worry about that. And then after apps close, we're going to have a webinar. And if you've applied to Techstars San Francisco, we're all going to hang out, like the team of the Bay Area, with the managing director, me, and the program manager on the team. We're going to have a webinar and we're going to talk to you about what our application process is going to look like, because you're going to get a lot more information on that webinar. And what that webinar is going to talk about specifically is we're going to send you some additional kind of information. We're going to collect some information from you. And a lot of that is in the sense of like kind of like exercises that you're going to be doing around your business. And, you know, we found that ultimately kind of that work that you're going to be doing around the additional kind of exercises is going to actually make you much better and understand your business much better. So it's not only for Techstars, it's actually, you know, just so you can understand your business and understand what metrics drive your business better. And then we'll go into some kind of more formal interviews and stuff like that. But a huge part of our process really is those kind of supplemental questions we're going to ask you and how much you commit to those. So, but again, like, don't worry about any of those questions now. If you apply to Techstars San Francisco, we'll have a webinar and we'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, and we have a pretty similar process for New York City. We also review every application that's submitted. And then it's a combination of kind of in-person meetings and or Zoom meetings to continue to get to know you and your company. And frankly, it's an opportunity for you as founders to get to know us, or the program team as well, and Techstars at large, right? Because we haven't quite touched on this yet. Maybe there's a few questions that'll come. When you're thinking of taking on venture capital and taking on investment dollars, it's certainly a two-way relationship, right? A lot of times founders head into these meetings or even think about VC as venture capitalists as the oracles and the almighty beings. But at the same time, you know, really our business really thrives on you as founders. So I think Sylvia mentioned this earlier in her intro, saying, you know, it's not kind of an honor to partner with you all, and we're fortunate to be here because really it's the founders that makes this industry work. So high level, aside from all of this Q&A here, credit to all of you for doing what you do. It's very hard. It's difficult. We have a huge amount of respect for that. So keep going. And again, we're here to be as supportive as possible. But, you know, the feeling out process, if you will, the diligence process, it's certainly a two-way street. You're going to probably feel like we're peppering you with questions, and I'm sure we are and we will. But make sure you use these opportunities either on Zoom or webinars or in person to get to know the team as well, because it's that team you're going to be learning from. It's that team's mentor and alumni network that you're going to be able to tap into to help you grow. It's that team's investor community and relationships you're going to be able to tap into to raise capital as well. So really use it as a filling out process. And it's a two-way diligence opportunity. And then look, this is a sometimes 3, 5, 7 or plus year relationship. So it's all about learning from each other, with each other, and getting to know each other. So that's how our team approaches it as well.
Great. Thank you. So let's say I've applied before in the past, but I didn't get in. Do you have any tips for founders that didn't get in? Is it a bad thing if I've applied multiple times? Is that something we take into consideration when you're reviewing my application again? Yeah, would love to hear your thoughts on that.
It is not a bad thing at all. We have so many founders in our cohort that have applied multiple times, like 2 or 3 times sometimes. And like in terms of, you know, like what can make them stand out, to me at least, it's just tell me the progress that you've made from last time. Really, like, share that with me throughout the process. Write about it in your application, write about it in our supplemental questions. Like, you know, continue to communicate that to us. This is how we've grown. These are the things that we've changed since last time. And absolutely, like, we know it's very challenging, you know, being a founder. So we're very excited to see that you're interested in Techstars again. And like I said, we have multiple like companies in essentially each of our cohorts that have applied multiple times. So it's definitely like not something that would hurt you at all.
Yeah, and I think a part of that too is just remember that we are also limited in how many companies we select per class. On average, it's usually about 12 companies per class. So there are limited spots available, and we have missed out on some really great companies because of that. So that's not a reflection of you or the value of your company, right? There just might not be a fit for us. We also take a look at it and see if during these interviews, I've seen it where an MD loved a company, but he was like, I really don't think I can help you though. Like, you're at a place where you're doing great, and there's not a really clear partner or a clear resource that we would have that would help you grow and do more faster. So it's just not a fit that way. So just remember that as you're going through this process, because I know it can be a little disheartening too, to go through the application process and not get in. And I really wish we could give feedback to every single founder that applies. But we do receive thousands of applications per application period. So unfortunately, due to our capacity and the team's capacity, we do not have an opportunity to give you feedback. But it doesn't hurt to reach out, right? Like, if you receive an email from one of the Accelerator teams saying that you didn't get in, it doesn't hurt to say, hey, can you just give me some quick pointers of what I can do better in my application? And they might be able to provide that, right? But just know, unfortunately, we can't do that for every single application. I'm going to try to shoot through as many questions as possible because we're already almost at time, which is wild. So just some quick questions. Do you have to be incorporated in the US to apply?
Not to apply, but you will if you receive an offer.
Okay. And do we provide any support with that?
We do give you guidance on how to go about the process, but our legal team does not provide that information for you. You'll need to have your own legal team to help you fill out the documentations and finalize that incorporation process. But we can tell you, hey, these are the documents that we need. So guidance, not doing for you.
And then when it comes to the program itself, what kind of support does Techstars provide? I know that's a huge question, but and if you can start off with the investment terms specifically, because we do have some questions about what are the investment terms and how can I use that money?
Absolutely. I'm happy to start. And then if anyone wants to fill in, we also have our investment terms on our website. So I'm going to grab that link just real fast and pop it into the chat. So what we say at Techstars is we give you a little bit of money, whole lot of love. So we do have a standard terms for most companies. A lot of times people say, can we get this particular deal? We take 6% to 9% in exchange for all of the mentorship, all of the resources, all of the education, our entire network. So even if you are with one program, you still have access to the entire network. We also have events and things after Techstars. We've done founders cons in the past, the ability to reach out to your MDs, to your investment managers and associates, the people who have been on your team. So lots of support, going out there, finding people within the network, or even if they're outside of Techstars, to assist you in doing more faster. And $20,000. You also have an opportunity to take a $100,000 convertible note. It is not required that you do. If you've raised more than $250,000 at more than a $5 million cap, it's probably not something that you're going to want to take. We're not a lead investor. We do not set the terms, but we do a valuation cap when we give you our investment. It's 3 million. We can float up to 5, just depending on how much other capital you've already taken on, as well as what your current valuation is. So that's something that our due diligence team, if you are offered a spot in the Techstars program, would go over with you in detail. But you can also see on our website what the investment terms are. And then if you have very specific, very personalized questions for you, I'm sure Jessica has an email or a resource for you to reach out and ask those very specific questions.
Yes, please email my team at startups@techstars.com if you have any questions, and we can answer those very specific ones for you. Elliott and Sylvia, anything else to add to that?
Nothing on my end. Yep, that was succinct. Great job,
Yeah.
Misti.
Yeah, guys, check out the investment terms. And if you have questions, definitely, send them our way.
Perfect. All right. So we're actually limited on time right now. So I just wanted to ask this question, which is, was there anything that I didn't ask that I should have covered that you would want this group to know?
The one takeaway that I would have for everyone, be resourceful, be proactive. It is not just whether or not you applied and whether that application is good, but it is who are you as a person? And can you show us from the very first time we interact with you? And hopefully that interactions, you've come to this AMA, which is amazing. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with us we also have forms on our web pages. So you can go to Techstars San Francisco, Techstars New York, Techstars anywhere. We have forms where you can ask questions, but don't ask Googleable questions. If it's something that's on our website, we look to see, are you asking questions that are helping you to learn more about something that we haven't already provided? So much information here today. Take the time to go through that. What we want to be your resource for is how can we help you on a customized, personalized level? And that's pretty much what the Accelerator program does as well. There's a quote that I love, and I'm going to end with this and then be quiet, that our Techstars Managing Director, Trey Bull, says that I'm going to steal. You'll also see it on the Techstars Anywhere webpage. And it is, we do not invest in founders to help them succeed. And a lot of times founders are like, wait a minute, I thought that's exactly what you do as an accelerator. It's actually a fallacy. We invest in founders we already believe are going to be successful, and we are just trying to help them do more faster. You are starting businesses. There's no doubt that you're great. Once you say, I want venture capital, I want to take someone else's money and build more with it, we are looking to see, have you unlocked something so that every dollar you get, you can turn it into $10. That does not mean you haven't built a great business. It just may mean that you're not ready for an accelerator or you're not ready for venture capital.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Well, as we wrap up, I just wanted to highlight that this is really all about becoming part of the Techstars community, right? It doesn't always have to be our accelerator program, but the reason why we highlighted that today is because our applications are closing for the spring 2025 classes. So that means that if you want to attend a program that starts in March of next year, then you'll want to apply now in order to be considered for those programs. So please start an application at apply.techstars.com. And also the additional resources that we have, you can get started now, right? We have the Techstars Toolkit, which is completely free for you to access. And it has a bunch of training videos and workshops that you can watch and review. There's Startup Week and Startup Weekends that you can start attending those events if you're interested in a local activation and seeing which resources are available locally for you. And then we also have our pre-accelerator program, which is the Founder Catalyst program that you can take a look at as well and see if that's a good fit for you if you're not ready for our accelerator program. But just to let you know, you can always reach my team at startups@techstars.com if we didn't get to your question today. We're always happy to answer those questions for you, and hopefully we'll see your application come through. But best of luck, everyone, and we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for answering the questions, Misti, Sylvia, and Elliott, and we'll see you at the next event. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
Hi, guys.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.